All right, coming up next, best-selling author and life coach Gail Trauco, her advice for families dealing with a difficult situation, divorce, and her 3 mistakes to avoid. That's coming up next. Stick around.
According to the authors who wrote a research paper in the American Sociological Review, about half of the children in this country will witness the divorce of their parents. The statistics are staggering, and Gail Trauco is a best-selling author, life coach, among other things. She is here today to talk about the 3 mistakes to avoid with kids in divorce. Thank you, Gail, for being here. This really ties back to your book. You have a series of 8 coming out recently, the first one published, and you say it really is all about grief, your book series, which we'll get into a second.
It is. You know, I was just at Harvard on the main stage in December and met with researchers. 50% of all North American children witness a divorce. 50% of those are going to see a parent's repeat divorce. Researchers have documented through clinical studies children of repeat divorce get lower grades in school, and kids their own age rate them as less pleasant to be around. Well, I think it's the parents' responsibility to take action to minimize damage on kids during the divorce process.
So you say that you have mistakes to avoid. Unfortunately, divorce happens. You know, it's one of those things you don't wish it on anybody. You hope that everyone has a wonderful marriage, able to raise the kids, you know, proper 2-parent household. But you say, should it happen, there are some certain things that you need to avoid. What are these 3 mistakes?
The first mistake to avoid, the Helen Keller mistake, not listening to our children. Children are brutally honest. They tell us exactly how they feel, and they will also tell you what they need. The second mistake to avoid, the Justin Bieber blunder. Justin Bieber's always in the media, especially in his teen years, drugs and alcohol. He got a speeding ticket. It might have been a domestic disturbance. What parent did you ever see step up and take responsibility for this child's actions to put him on a more constructive path?
So the blunder is that parents need to be involved and know, and if they see that their children are going down this path that Justin Bieber has gone down, step in and you got to do something about it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
You have to do something about it. You own it. It's your child.
Okay.
No matter what the behavior. And the third mistake to avoid, the Paris Jackson problem. Paris Jackson made her first suicide attempt in June of 2013. She's a child that grew up in a household. Her father, Michael Jackson, isolated himself, very much indicative of a depressive disorder. So in this household, you already have this depressive disorder in existence. It's called environmentally induced depression. If you look at her wrist in the media, she's got scars on her arm from where she cuts herself. As a parent, we have to observe our children's behavior. So I'm a mom. I would have seen my child cutting herself and would have provided a therapist, you know, whatever the support was that she needed to feel better.
And on the first one, when you talked about the first mistake, you said not listening to your kids. What specific things, I mean, just listening to be an outlet for them to be able to talk, or are there certain things that we need to listen for that trigger, okay, I know we need to go and get more help?
You have to listen as a parent, and we've all been through divorce. Most of us have. I mean, I divorced when my children were very young. They told me, you know, what's going to happen? Who's going to watch us after school? Who's going to make dinner? You know, because I was already working, so suddenly there was a nanny that was there in the afternoons that made the meal, that picked them up from schools. You know, is the parent going to get involved in another relationship? Will there be another person? You know, male or female on both sides? Are they going to have to move? Lots of life changes happen with divorce.
Let's talk about the book. What do you hope that kids, you know, is there a certain age group that your book is targeted towards? And you say this really applies to grief in general. So it could be the loss of a parent, you know, God forbid. It could be just loss of a grandparent or divorce.
I chose divorce since we have such a high statistical incidence of divorce in North America. Emma meets the grief monster. Emma is going to go through the 7 phases of a grief cycle, and the 8th book will be at the end where she's in that forgetfulness and healing phase and has learned to live with the divorce of her parents. But each book, the first one, her dad's moving out, and the second one, dad goes on a date. You know, so she faces each of the 7 phases of grief in each book.
Okay, Gail, thank you for being here. We run out of time, and I want to let people know where they can pick up a copy of your book. You can go to frontporchtherapy.com, which is your website. You can buy Gail's book there. You can also read her blog and a lot more. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.